There was a scream, a splash, and then a weird buzzing sound followed by a loud pop. I didn't even need to check. I knew exactly what had happened. Lydia Vaughn's precious surveillance drone had just nosedived into her pool like a kamikaze on a death wish, and all because I'd finally had enough of being spied on in my own backyard. To understand how we got here, rewind 3 weeks. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon. The sky was clear, the grill was hot, and I had a bratwurst in one hand and a cold soda in the other. My wife, Rachel, was setting up the sides: potato salad, baked beans. The works, and our daughter, Sadie, was lounging on the patio swing with a book, earbuds in, soaking up the calm before the chaos of school started up again. Then it happened. A high-pitched whirring sound broke the peace, growing louder by the second. I looked up to find a sleek black quadcopter hovering 20 feet above my yard. Its camera was angled down like we were in some kind of action film. At first, I thought it was some kid's toy, but it didn't drift. It moved with purpose, edging closer and closer until it hovered just inches above our fence line. Then the camera zoomed in, not on the grill, not on me and Sadie. That was when something snapped. I waved, yelled, tried to shoo it off. Nothing. The drone twitched slightly and floated off toward the oak tree near the property line. I followed it, curious to see where it would land, and sure enough, it zipped back toward the biggest 2-story home at the end of the block. Lydia Vaughn's place. Every neighborhood has one person who makes life unnecessarily difficult. In ours, it was Lydia. She ran the HOA like a drill sergeant with a passion for punishment. Grass a half-inch too long? Citation. Wrong holiday flag on your porch? Fine. Host a birthday party with too many guests? Emergency meeting. She didn't just enforce the rules, she weaponized them. Apparently, she'd now moved on to airspace enforcement. That evening, I walked over and knocked on her door. She answered wearing a silk robe, holding a goblet of white wine the size of a punch bowl. Her platinum blonde hair was perfectly set, and her expression didn't change when I said, "Hey Lydia, I think your drone flew over our yard earlier." "I know," she said, not even blinking. "Just a quick flyover. I was doing a routine neighborhood safety check. Someone's been leaving their trash bins out too long. Sanitation issue, right?" I replied slowly, trying to stay calm. "Except your drone hovered over my daughter." "That's not a safety check. That's surveillance." She took a long sip of wine, tilted her head like a condescending owl. "If you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't mind being watched." Then she shut the door in my face. Back home, Rachel could see the steam coming out of my ears. Sadie looked up and said, "That drone was by my window earlier. It's creepy, Dad." Not okay. By Monday morning, we got our first citation in months. Improper grill cover, non-compliant material. It was a canvas cover I bought from Home Depot. A joke. But it didn't stop there. Every day brought something new. Garden tools visible from the street. Unauthorized decorative stone. Excessive wind chime resonance. And the drone? It buzzed daily. Hovered. Watched. Sadie started sleeping with the curtains drawn tight. Rachel stopped hanging clothes on the line. Even the neighborhood kids wouldn't run through sprinklers anymore for fear of being filmed. We were being monitored like suspects, not residents. That's when I decided enough was enough. What Lydia didn't know, what no one in Ridgefield Grove knew, was that I had a past. Before settling into suburban dad life, I spent 6 years designing counter-surveillance tech for government contractors. Drones, signal jammers, RF disruptors, I knew how all of it worked. And now, I was going to use those skills again. Not to break the law, just to make her life very inconvenient. That night, I went into the garage and pulled out a dusty storage box. Inside, signal scanners, frequency readers, portable disruptors. My old friends. The next morning, I sat under the patio umbrella with a smoothie and a laptop. When the drone appeared right on time, I activated a low-power pulse jammer. The drone twitched, dipped, and then leveled out. Lydia probably thought it hit a gust of wind. I turned it off and sipped my smoothie. Later that afternoon, a neighborhood-wide email pinged my inbox. "Attention residents, suspicious digital interference has been detected. Remain vigilant. Report all unusual tech behavior." She was rattled. Over the next few days, I watched her install new cameras on her porch. Then she mounted a pole in her backyard with a rotating motion sensor and infrared detection. She was preparing for war. A war she didn't understand. Phase 2 began when I built a directional jammer disguised as a birdhouse. Looked like a cute wooden robin. Inside, a frequency disruptor with a 50-foot cone of influence. Legal just on the edge. That week, her drone flew its usual pattern, 9 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. daily. Always circling, always low. My house got special attention, extra loops, longer hovers. It wasn't about HOA violations anymore. Lydia had made it personal. So I made it personal too. The next time it hovered over our deck, I flicked the jammer on. The drone jerked like it hit a wall, spun awkwardly, and then bolted back to her house. Minutes later, a fresh email, emergency, our community's aerial safety system has suffered targeted disruption. This is sabotage. Lydia was spiraling. But she wasn't backing down. She had a private security firm install a rooftop antenna and signal booster. Claimed it was for better Wi-Fi. But I knew better. She was trying to maintain drone control at longer ranges. Rachel watched me run jammer logs and tweak settings. "You're treating this like a mission," she said one night. "Because it is," I replied. She turned our backyard into a battlefield. And she wasn't done. A week later, the drone showed up with a speaker attached. As it hovered over our patio, it broadcast Lydia's voice. "This is private property. Please comply with HOA regulations." Sadie ran outside and yelled, "Is this a flying Karen?" I laughed. I had to. But I knew this wasn't a joke anymore. This wasn't about enforcing neighborhood standards. It was about domination. Lydia wanted to own the sky. And that meant I had to end this once and for all. So I prepared the final phase. I upgraded the jammer to include a signal spooferone that could intercept her commands and confuse the drone's internal GPS. I could lead it anywhere. And I had the perfect destination, Lydia's pool. On the day of the next HOA meeting, her favorite stage, I put the plan in motion. She walked into the rec center like she was giving a keynote speech. Blazer, clipboard, smugness cranked to 11. When the time came, I stood up. "Before we begin, I have something to share." I plugged in a USB. The projector lit up with video footage submitted by half the neighborhood. The drone hovering over kids playing, peeking in windows, recording backyard birthday parties. Then came the final clip. The drone outside Sadie's bedroom window. The timestamp was clear. So was Lydia sitting at her window piloting it. The room went quiet. Marcy, one of the board members, leaned forward and asked, "Lydia, is that your living room?" She didn't answer. Brenda from 2 streets over raised her hand. "Lydia, were you the one flying over my hot tub last week?" More silence. Then Howard, the HOA president, cleared his throat. "We'll be reviewing your authority immediately." Lydia stood, red-faced, and stormed out. But I wasn't done. That evening, Lydia sat by her pool with a glass of wine, floating lazily on a flamingo-shaped raft. Her drone buzzed overhead. I activated the spoofer. The drone wobbled, turned, and descended directly toward her pool. She looked up. No, no, no. Too late. Splash. The drone exploded in a burst of sparks and steam. Lydia slipped off her float and fell into the shallow end, soaked and sputtering. I closed my laptop and smiled. She never saw it coming. The next morning? No emails. No citations. No buzzing. Just peace. Lydia tried to salvage her reputation, filed complaints, made accusations, but no one listened. Even her husband started walking the dog alone, keeping his head down. Weeks passed. The board revised the HOA rules. Drones were banned. Surveillance equipment, not without unanimous approval. They called it the Lydia Clause. We hosted a barbecue to celebrate. Howard presented me with a trophy. A tiny broken drone on a plaque that read, "For outstanding service in aerial pest control." People laughed, hugged, smiled. Sadie ran barefoot through the yard again. And for the first time in a long time, we all looked up at the sky and saw nothing at all. Just blue. Just peace. And not a drone in sight.